This was my tool holder for the heater. Let's see if we can convert it to hold my palm sander and my sandpaper. Let's make a new French cleat. So a drill in hand, I undrive. Is that a word? Undrive? X-drive? I remove the screws from the tool holder, which I save for later. Then I use a paint scraper to pry up the trim from the molding. We got all the pieces taken apart now, and I organized the sandpaper. The sandpaper sheets that I got come from all the way 40 grit all the way up to 320 grit. So we have to make sure we have slots for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 slots.
Woo.
The backboard for the heater seems to be a good size for this guy, as long as I keep the sides. I use this as the main base and then put the sides on there. But we want to have the sandpaper below, so all of this is going to have to come up. So yeah, so that's the plan. I don't know if you remember the desk that I took apart and used for the kitchen for the garbage. Well, these were the drawers. So I saved the drawers. So what I'm going to do is use the panels on the inside of the drawers to make the slots for the sandpaper. With the demolition part of the project done, it's time to rip down my pieces for the new tool holder. I want to have a shelf for the orbital sander and then have mini shelves underneath for various grits of sandpaper. I lay out the line for where the bottom of the top shelf will be, and then I get a center line for the divider between the two shelves. This is the first time I'm using a dado stack on this table saw. The saw has a locking mechanism for the blade, which is nice because you don't need 2 wrenches to loosen the bolt. I use a 1/4 inch setup block for the depth of my dados. Then using a test piece, I make a test cut. Checking the panel, it's a good fit for the new shelves. Okay, now we're going to make the dado cuts to make the grooves for the shelves to go in here. So here's the setup. I got the right side, the left side, and then this piece is going to be a middle divider. I'll cut it down after we do all the cuts. So I have my layout lines on the base. So as long as I keep the saw the same for the layout lines for the base, or for the back I should say, all the other ones will work out fine. I don't have to make up the lines for those. So I'm going to run this through the saw, and I'm going to run all those. So I'm going to run the right side. The middle is going to have to be ran twice because there's going to be a slot on both sides. And then the left side. So I had 4 layout lines, and that was, the last layout line was for the bottom of the top shelf. I made the groove, I didn't need to, but this is the centerpiece. So right now I'm going to cut all this off and using, I guess, that line for a guide. Then this way I can get my, my middle piece to be perfectly inside there. This is going to go in here. I still don't like how square the top is, so what I'd like to do is cut some of this off just to make it look a little less boxy. Well, the good news is I get to use my L-jig that I made a couple months ago. I'll leave a link for that one up here. It's for making tapered cuts and stuff. So we're going to taper this board, and it's pretty much, we can do whatever we want in terms of that. So here we go. I've got my line. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut this with the L-jig, but so we can do both of them at the same time. They're mirrored, so you can't cut them like this because this is the left side. So you kind of have to sandwich them together. So if I do it this way, since I already laid out my line there, I keep these together like that, and then I cut this, and then both of them, once they're apart, they'll be reversed again to the other side, like so, and they'll have the same cut on both sides. So let's go set up the L-jig. Okay, off camera I cut this piece to go in here since I already had the slot. Wanted to see what it would look like if I, rather than having this shelf come down, put the slot, put a little shelf in there like that and put it together like that. It fills in the gap, and I think I like it, so we'll just leave it like that. So now I think we can start assembling things. Before we cut these shelves, I kind of want to put it together first. So of course my audio went out at this point. The good news is you don't have to hear me ramble on and on. But here I'm going to show you the almost finished project. I was considering adding some trim to this piece, but realizing it really doesn't need any trim. So it's time to make the little shelves for the sanding discs. After cutting the width of the shelf, I used the board to get a measurement for the depth of the shelf. I ripped down the material for the shelves. The shelf is a little deep for the sanding discs, and it was something I've seen in other videos where people have cut out a rounded edge to the shelf to make it easier to get to the sanding discs. It also adds a nice look to it. Plus, I get to use my bandsaw, which I haven't used in a while. So using a sanding disc as a template, I draw out the curve for the shelf. Looks like a curve to me. The trick here is to use blue tape and tape all the little shelves together. This ensures that all the shelves have the same curve to them. Plus, you only have to do it once versus cutting them 6 times. So over at the bandsaw, I cut out the curve, making sure to stay within my line. This isn't the greatest bandsaw. It was a Harbor Freight special. After rough cutting the curve to the shelves, I move to the sander and sneak up on my line with the rounded part of the belt sander. Final thing to do is add a cleat to the back of the holder, and it's good to go. Hey, I felt really bad about the audio cutting out in the video, so I wanted to redo the closing for you. So here's the finished product. I love the way it came out. I think it's great. I like the way it looks, and even with the white from the desk with the wood from the shelves. The wood from the drawers. I think it has a couple nice accent pieces to it. The other part I liked about this project is the fact that I was able to use a couple of other jigs that I've made in the past, like the L fence, my crosscut sled, obviously, and reusing an old tool holder from the heater for here. Oh, and don't forget, I have videos for how I made the crosscut sled, along with how I made the fence for the table saw and the L fence for the table saw. So there's 3 separate videos for those. So if you can, go check those out too.